7C, Part 2. What we did in Part 1 those are special cases out how to factor. And this first part here with perfect square trinomials is also a special case. It only works, perfect square trinomials only work in the first term and the last term are perfect squares. So we have perfect square of square root of 4x squared is 2x, and the square root of 9 is 3. So these have to be perfect squares for this to work. Meaning you have to be able to take the square root of them and get perfect numbers. If this happens, then what we're going to do is the factors will be very similar to the last one we did with, very similar to what we did here, difference of squares. Very, very similar. It's going to be 2x and 3 and 2x and 3, but instead of one's positive, one's negative, we just take whatever sign is here and drop it in. So they're both negative. You can also rewrite this since they're both exactly the same thing, 2x minus 3 squared. That's factor. Moving on. We have perfect square again on the first term. Square root of x squared is x. And even though there's a y in here, we still can do this. Square root of 25y squared is 5y. So then, the two factors are x and 5y, x and 5y, and then since it is a subtraction in between, it becomes two subtractions. You can rewrite this if you want. I'm not going to mark off if you don't. X minus 5y squared. You can write either that or this, either way. It's fine with me. Moving on. We have factoring a trinomial. So there's no special case to this. This is just, it works. This works every time for every trinomial that has a square. So this is with trinomials or quadratics. So what we do is you do the first term times the last term. So 2 times negative 15, that's negative 30. So it's first times last, and what times what is negative 30? It'll add up to negative 7. So add to negative 7. So multiply to negative 30, but add up to negative 7. So you think about negative 30 and 1. Note that adds up to 29. Negative 29. Negative 5 and 6. That adds up to 1. So no, we needed to add to negative 7. So negative 10 and 3. That'll add up to negative 7. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. A lot of you remember Punnett Square. So we're going to do a Punnett Square on this. First term here goes in the first box, 2x squared. Last term goes in the last box, bottom right. And the 10 and negative 10 and 3 go into the boxes, other two boxes. And we are going to put the variable x on those. Now, we need to take and find the greatest common factor of each column and each row. So the first column, between 2x squared and 3x, the greatest common factor is x. Between negative 10x and negative 15, the greatest common factor is 5, and then since they're both negative, we bring a negative out. So now we do the rows. 2x squared times negative 10x, the greatest common factor is 2x. They're not both negative, so we won't take a negative out. And negative 15 and 3x, the greatest common factor is 3. So now we have, the factors are actually on the outside. So our factors are x minus 5 and 2x plus 3. Those are your factors here. Okay, moving on. Okay, so we have example 2, we need to factor again. Remember, sometimes you have to do GCF, greatest common factor. I didn't do that in the first problem, there wasn't one right away. But here we have between 24x squared, 26x, and 6. Greatest common factor is 2. So it's like you're dividing each term by 2. So we're undistributing 12x squared plus 13x plus 3. Now, what's on the inside of the parentheses? We can factor this further. Do the first term times the last term. So 12 times 3, 36. And now you do what times what is 36? That'll add up to negative, or positive 13. So what times what is 36? That adds up to positive 13. So we have, let's see here, 2 and 18. That adds up to 20. 15. Ooh. You know, 3 and 12. That's 50. That'll add up to 15 now. So in the end, it'll be 9 and 4. 9 times 4, 36. 9 plus 4 is the 13, and that's what we're looking for. 13, what's in the middle term. So use the Punnett Square again. These are binomials, so we need a 2 by 2. The first term goes in the first blank, top left. Last term, 3 goes in the bottom right. And the middle diagonal, we're going to put 9x and 4x. The 9 and 4 come from over here. So now we take each column, greatest common factor, so 12x squared, and 4x, greatest common factor is 4x. Greatest common factor between 9x and 3 is 3. Now, rows, 12x squared and 9x, greatest common factor is 3x. 4x and 3, there is no greatest common factor besides 1, so we will take 1 out. So, in the end, rewrite this up here. Don't forget your greatest common factor of 2. And then on the outside we have 4x and 3 is positive, so 4x plus 3. And 3x, 1's positive, so 3x plus 1. And there is the factors. Come to class with some questions. The last example here, example 2. We'll make that your quiz.